Good evening and welcome to the Paranormal Lens. My name's Chad Thomas, and that's Jamie Widener over there. How are you doing tonight, Jamie?
Life is good, sir. Life is good. It's Tuesday. What could be wrong? Here we are.
Here we are. And I forgot to say we are from Jott-Nyx Paranormal. Because it's
That's it. You're
those
fired. You're out.
yeah,
That's it.
he's gonna fire me. Jerry's gonna fire me. That's all there is to it.
Again.
Uh,
Again.
so
It,
anyway,
it's a running joke that Chad gets fired every time we do an investigation. So um, he doesn't. He knows that it's not for real. At least this
yeah.
time.
So
Yeah.
all right. So the stream is working because Todd and Carmela are there. We were having issues.
Yeah, we had a little trouble getting here tonight, so bear with. Sorry for being a few moments late. The wonderful technologies of the world just did not want to align for us here. So
No,
um,
but they did
we
eventually.
made it.
So.
And there's Todd and Carmel, like you said. So good evening, guys.
So, Jamie, I said last week that I was hoping that if the tides went the right way, no pun intended. Well, maybe a little.
I
That
think there's a fun there. Yeah.
we would have a special guest, and guess what? They did go the right way.
They're gonna say chicken butt. Okay, never mind.
So, I am going to bring our guest in with us, and here we go. Hey guys,
Hey, we know them.
What's happening, folks?
it's good to see you.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
You
So
as
Very,
well.
very well. Better now.
it's been
Yeah.
a little chaotic. So
Most shows start once. You guys started twice, and I admire that.
give up. We kept going. So
It's so nice we started twice.
Yeah.
so.
I'm glad that it's good. It's catchy.
So we figured neither of us had been to the Queen Mary, but we knew some people who had, and I wanted to, get the opportunity. So we appreciate you coming on. So I'm going to give a little bit of history, and then we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Awesome.
Sounds good.
So tonight's story takes us back to about 1929 and a passenger line called the Cunard Line. At their annual meeting in April of that year, the board of directors announced that the question of new tonnage is constantly on our mind. They decided it was time to replace 3 ships that were running their North Atlantic route. And with the new super ocean liners, the 2 ships would be sufficient to replace, and I'm going to butcher these names, but I'm going to try, the Mauritania, the Aquitania, and the Berengaria. Architects and engineers were hired, and plans were drawn up to build these 2 magnificent ships. On May 28th, 1930, it was announced that John Brown and Company had been awarded the contract to build the new Cunard liner. On December 1st, 1930, the first keel plate was laid, officially known as Hull number 534, at the John Brown shipyard in Clydebank, Scotland. Now, the early 30s were a difficult time financially for everyone. The stock market had crashed in 1929, and that was the beginning of the Great Depression. Well, it turns out it was not the ideal time to start building a superliner. On December 11th, 1931, just 1 year and 10 days after construction began, it was halted because it was impossible to secure any more loans. At this point, the hull plate was 80% complete, and the ship was approximately 9 decks high. This is how the John Brown Company's hull number 534 would spend the next 28 months. In 1933, the Cunard Line and another competing passenger ship company, the White Star Line, we all know the White Star Line from the Titanic, they were both struggling to survive. The British government agreed to provide financial assistance to both companies if they agreed to combine their North Atlantic operations. An agreement was drafted on December 30th, 1933, and the merger was executed on May 10th, 1934. This created the Cunard White Star Limited. While the mergers were being complete, the British government passed the North Atlantic Shipping Bill. This bill allowed the British Treasury to advance £4.5 million to continue the work on Hull 534 and make an advance of not more than £5 million on a second liner. The funding allowed the construction to resume on April 3rd, 1934. And the official merger happened on May 11th, 1934. The progress on Hull 534 continued, and preparations for launching the ship began. It was at this point that all ships must have a name. Now, there's a story about the name that goes like this. The board of directors at Cunard decided to name the ship
What? Just when he was about to give the name of the ship, we couldn't hear you.
We lost you, Chad.
Oh, sorry. Oh, so
Oh, wait, what was it again?
I know. I was like, wait, what?
All the letters were silent. That's why I didn't say anything.
all right. So let me start this out. Let me go back. As let's see, the board of directors decided to name the ship the Queen Victoria, which would have been in keeping with the tradition of Cunard lines having the IA suffix. As per protocol, legend states the Cunard directors asked King George for his blessing of the ship's proposed name, saying, "We have decided to name our ship after England's greatest queen," meaning Queen Victoria, the king's grandmother. Upon which the king is reported to have stated, "My wife, Queen Mary, will be delighted that you are naming the ship after her." And so it was. Now, as a side note, Cunard officials have always denied the story, and traditionally the names of royal family members have only been used for capital ships of the Royal Navy. This anecdote has been widely contested ever since Frank Brayard published it in his 1947 book, Lives of the Liners. Some support for the story was provided by Washington Post editor Felix Morley, who sailed as a guest on the Cunard Line on Queen Mary's 1936 maiden voyage. In his 1979 autobiography, For the Record, Morley wrote that he was placed at a table with Sir Percy Bates, chairman of the Cunard Line. Bates told him the story of the naming of the ship on the condition you don't print it during my lifetime. The story was finally confirmed in 1988 when Brainerd attended the same dinner party as Eleanor Sparks, daughter of Sir Ashley Sparks, who had been with Bates during the conversation with George V. She confirmed the favorite ship story to him, telling the exact anecdote that Brainerd had published in his book. So I find that kind of an interesting little story.
Yeah. That's
So,
pretty cool. Mhm.
Yeah.
so the ship was launched on September 26, 1934. At which point, Her Majesty Queen Mary, His Majesty King George V, officially named Hull 534 the Queen Mary. She was moved to a fitting out basin so that work could continue. The installation of her boilers, masts, funnels, and other machinery began a few days later and was completed by November 6, 1934. On March 5th, 1935, King Edward made the inspection tour of the ship and she made her maiden voyage. She departed the John Brown shipyard on May 24th and made her way down the Clyde River to Gowrick, Scotland. Now, despite her shallow draft, prior dredging, and keeping her lifeboats off for the voyage downriver, she went aground twice. When she arrived in Gowrick, she went through anchor trials, had her magnetic compasses adjusted, and lifeboats were placed in their davits. She departed Gowrick on March 25th and headed to Southampton, where she was dry docked from March 27th to April 8th to finish her fitting out. Once refloated, she made her way to the Irish Sea, and from April 15th through the 19th, official speed trials were held off the Isle of Arran. At 12 p.m. on May 12th, the Cunard White Star Line officially took possession of the Queen Mary. On March 25th, King Edward VIII, Her Majesty Queen Mary, the young Princess Elizabeth, and the Duke and Duchess of York, the Duke and Duchess of Kent, and the Duchess of Gloucester visited the ship. Queen Mary presented her personal standard to the ship. It was displayed at the head of the main staircase on the promenade deck and is now located aboard the Queen Elizabeth II, which is still sailing. On May 27th, 1935, at 4:33 p.m., the Queen Mary steamed out of Southampton for her maiden voyage towards Cherbourg, France. She arrived at Cherbourg at 8:47 p.m. and departed the following morning at 12:39 a.m., headed for New York. She would make the crossing in 5 days, 5 hours, and 13 minutes. She arrived at Pier 90 on June 1st at 4:20 p.m. The Queen Mary would make the trek back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean numerous times. On her sixth crossing on August of 1936, Queen Mary captured the Blue Ribbon from the Normandy with average speeds of 30.14 knots westbound and 30.63 knots eastbound. The Blue Ribbon was a competition that whoever had the best time crossing the Atlantic would take the Blue Ribbon. In 1937, The Normandy received a new set of propellers and reclaimed the blue ribbon. However, in 1938, under the command of Robert B. Irving, Queen Mary took back the blue ribbon in both directions with average speeds of 30.99 knots or 35.6 miles per hour. East and the record stood until she lost it to the United States in 1952. The Queen Mary set many world records throughout the years. On October 8th, 1938, she was docked by Commodore Irving in New York Harbor without the aid of tugboats. Times were changing in the world and also with the Queen Mary. On August 30th, 1939, the ship departed Southampton on what would be her final peacetime voyage. She carried 2,552 passengers, the largest number of passengers to date, and millions in gold bullion. Two of the passengers on that trip included Mr. and Mrs. Bob Hope. During the trip, the crew members blacked out the ship's portals on September 2nd, and England and France declared war on Germany the next day. Though passenger ships were still needed to transport civilians through the war years, the Queen Mary was converted and used as a troop transport. She became known as the Grey Ghost. And I was going to put some slides up here, and I completely forgot. So let me see if I can get those going. Let's see. She was known as the Grey Ghost during the war years. Let's see. In March of 1940, she left New York and was headed for Sydney, Australia. There she was converted to a troop transport. She went from being able to carry 2,140 passengers to 5,500. On May 5th, she set off for her first troop transport mission as part of a convoy. She carried troops from Sydney to Gourock, Scotland. The Queen Mary dry docked in Singapore on August 5th, 1940 to go through some more conversions for military life. During this dry dock, the paravanes were added to the Queen Mary. The brainchild of inventor Sir Denniston Burney, paravanes were underwater gliders designed to sweep enemy mines. Streamed out from the bow, a paravane uses a tow line to cut mooring cables of any undersea mines it encounters, bringing the explosive device to the surface for safe detonation by gunfire. Throughout the war years, she was dry docked several times to increase troop capacity. On a voyage from May 11th to May 16th, 1942, the Queen Mary carried 9,880 troops and 905 crew. This was the first time ever that 10,000 people were put up on a ship. Later that year, from August 2nd to 7th, the entire 1st Armored Division was transported by the Queen Mary. The voyage carried 15,125 troops and 863 crew members. Being a transport ship, that was not an easy life. And on October 2nd, 1942, she collided with the British light cruiser, the Caraco. Her bow was severely damaged, and a temporary patch was put in place with 70 tons of cement. On October 14th, she was dry docked to put a more permanent bow piece in place, and she continued to serve in the war, transporting troops, German POWs, and even Winston Churchill. As the war ended, her armament was removed, her funnels were repainted to colored colors, but she was still serving the war heroes. In 1946, she made at least 13 war bride voyages. And I lost my place again. I apologize. She made 13 war bride voyages. In the first 6 trips alone, she carried 12,886 European brides and children to the United States and Canada. In September of 1946, she made her final military voyage. And on February 15th, 1947, she was put up in dry dock and restored for passenger service. After the systems were overhauled, her furnishings were reinstalled after being tracked down from different ports all around the world. The years after the war saw the Queen Mary in service again between England and the United States. She carried notable people including Walt Disney, Winston Churchill, Anthony Eden, and Queen Elizabeth. She saw maritime improvements such as having stabilizers installed. Unfortunately, this was also the time she lost her blue ribbon for crossing the Atlantic. On July 15th, 1952, the SS United States bested her with a time of 3 days, 12 hours, and 12 minutes. The 1960s saw the beginning of the end for the Queen Mary during the Atlantic crossings. March 9th, 1962 saw a wave flood parts of the main A and B decks. December 29th, 1963 was the first time she was used as a cruise ship, and on April 1st, 1966, Cunard Cruise Lines announced that the Queen Mary was for sale. On May 8th of 1967, the Queen Mary captain opened orders saying that they were selling the Queen Mary. On July 27th, 1967, Long Beach, California offered a bid of $3.45 million, which was accepted. And on October 31st, 1967, the Queen Mary departed Southampton for the last time. She arrived in Long Beach on December 9th and was officially removed from the British Registry on December 11th. She was turned over to the city of Long Beach, and she was dry docked at the Long Beach Naval Shipyards, where she was officially decommissioned. On February 2nd, 1971, the Queen Mary was moved to Pier J, technically being a hulk now that is not seaworthy. The Queen Mary completed her 1,001 crossings of the North Atlantic, having carried 2,112,000 passengers over 3,792,227 miles. Today, she is used as a hotel, tourist attraction, museum, and event space. Over the years, she has been managed by various companies, including Diners Club, Walt Disney, Sky Chefs, and many others. Her condition had degraded over the years, and in August of 2019, the city of Long Beach engineer did an inspection of the Queen Mary and said it was the worst thing he had seen in his 25 years on the job. He is quoted as saying, "Without an immediate and very significant infusion of manpower and money, the condition of the ship will soon be unsalvageable." All operations on the Queen Mary stopped in May of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And an architecture and marine engineering firm hired by the city found that $23 million was needed for urgent safety repairs to keep the ship viable over the next 2 years. The report by the Elliott Bay Design Group reported the vessel was vulnerable to flooding or even possibly capsizing. In June of 1922, the city established an agreement with the Evolution Hospitality Company, where the company managed the ship for a portion of the revenue, while the city controlled repairs and restoration of the ship. By November, the city had spent $2.8 million for plumbing repairs, a new Wi-Fi connection, handrail restoration, and energy-efficient light bulbs. This also included beginning work on the ship's boilers and heat exchangers. The city approved $1 million to continue repairs to the ship's linoleum flooring, carpet, refrigerators, elevators, kitchen exhaust hoods, and guest room locks. After the ship opened for limited tours on December 15th, 2022, and a public opening was held on April 1st, 2023, later in the month, it was announced that the ship and pier would remain with the city, while with the port being a partner. The repairs, along with the increased tourism, led to the Queen Mary to earn $3.5 million in operating profits from April to December of 2023. So that's quite a turnaround. So,
Wow.
I've given what's that?
I was happy.
Yeah. That's a quick glimpse of the history of the ship. There's a lot that I haven't, that just would go into a lot of detail to cover. But we haven't talked about the ship herself. Her overall length was 1,109.5 feet. She had a beam of 118 feet and a gross tonnage of 81,237. Her riveted steel hull plating had 10 million rivets. From her keel to the top of her funnels was 181 feet and a draft of 39.5 feet. Her cruising speed was officially 28.5 knots. This was produced by her Parsons single reduction geared steam turbines that were fed by 27 boilers. The boilers burnt 1,000 tons of bunker C fuel per day. They fed 4 propellers. Her rudder weighed 140 tons. And finally, she had 3 anchors and 1,980 feet of anchor chain. So quite a lot.
That's why she's beautiful.
Uh,
I emailed you a few extra pictures that I had taken on the ship myself, if you can pull them. And
okay.
I sent one through Messenger. It's of the propeller. They had 4 of these propellers on it when it was active, but I think there's only 2 left. And
Okay.
it's outside the ship, but for tourism and stuff, they've enclosed it. So when you're in the engine room area and you walk to the propeller room, you think you're still inside the ship because you're walking down a hallway, but you're not. You're actually going outside the ship.
Yeah.
So I sent you a picture. When you go in the propeller room, it's dizzying and it's huge.
Yep.
It's huge.
You sure feel something. It's crazy how
Dizzy, right?
Yeah, it's dizzy, and I don't know. I guess because the way it is it's enclosed in the water. I don't know, but there's some like you can feel dizziness in there.
Yeah, you nailed down a lot of the things I had heard. I know it had maritime speed records. It's a third bigger than the Titanic.
Yeah.
In size. Hitler had bounties on it to sink it when it was a troop transport. I think around $250,000 at the time, which is why they had 2 ships. One of them, I think it's pronounced Cunard. I'm not sure because I remember hearing the guy doing the tours there. One of the ships was the RMS. I think it was the RMS Cunard. And there were 2 of them that would flank it and zigzag in case any U-boats tried to pick it off. And one of them, I guess they said they were getting a look at the majesty of the Queen Mary, and they didn't follow their course on time. I guess this is the story as I heard it. And so that was you had the one picture of it with a ship right in front of it. It got sliced in half.
Yeah.
300 and something crew people from that ship went into the water. Many of them met their death getting sucked into the propeller, which is why I sent you the picture.
Yeah.
And their orders, because it was wartime, were keep going. We'll send another ship for any survivors.
Yeah.
They weren't even allowed to pick them up.
Wow.
That's how it is.
And I think at one time they were transporting troops. They had, when it was called the Gray Ghost, they had, I don't know, like, there it is, like 14, 15,000 people on it. So they literally had to eat, sleep, and use the bathroom in shifts.
Yeah. And they were standing shoulder to shoulder, basically. I think I read at one point.
Yeah.
Like it was only meant to hold 5,000 people at the most. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So you see the red part, that's the outside of the ship, but you're in an enclosed room. So you don't realize that you're no longer inside the bowels of the ship itself. The picture does it some justice. But when I tell you, whatever room you're in, I don't care how high your ceilings are, that thing probably wouldn't fit in it. That's how big that is.
Yeah, it's huge.
So, while I work on getting some of these other pictures up, I will put up let me see if I.
And people throw coins in there like a wishing well. At the bottom of that tank underneath the propeller is filled with coins.
Yeah. But if you're paying attention, you can tell you're outside. It's just, I guess most people don't pay attention.
It's easy to not see it because they have it all enclosed.
And then it's just the propeller itself is so beautiful. You kind of just focus on that.
Yeah, draw their attention.
Yeah.
Just want to note that the first call for a road trip just came there at 23 minutes and 59 seconds.
So
it's a long road from
not
here.
the fastest we've had, but it's certainly
I don't have any pictures of what I'm going to tell you about now, but I know I saw, online when it was seaworthy. There's a picture of it, I think, in the Hudson River between New Jersey and New York City, in the vicinity of Edgewater, New Jersey, which is where we now live. So it's ironic that if it was still here, well, you would never see me.
I know. Imagine seeing her just, oh my God. That would be great.
When I started doing paranormal stuff, I lived in Los Angeles, but we met in 2016. I was there from 2000 to 2014. And probably from 2012, for the 2 years before I moved back to the East Coast, I went there every month.
Oh, really?
Every month, and did an investigation, if not more than once a month, because I lived 45 minutes from it in Burbank.
Yeah.
So I would go constantly. And then when we got together, we went back twice before I changed jobs around 2019 or so, right before the whole COVID thing in 2020. So we skipped a year. We went 2016, right? No, we went 17 and 18.
Yeah.
And then we skipped 19, and then 20 we were going to go back, and then everything shut down. And then it was in litigation between the city and the hotel management, who's going to do the repairs. And they finally got it all worked out. And we were like, oh, we're going to go this year we're gonna, and then we got the opportunity to go to the UK and do the Paracon, and we went, well, we're not going to go this year.
Yeah. But she holds a special place in my heart, not only for the history, but that's where I heard my first disembodied voice with my, with my own ear. And what else? Oh, and that experience that I had.
You saw almost like an aura.
That too. See, I've had some really good experiences there that I never experienced before. You know what I mean? Like, because there was one in the infirmary
Yeah.
that I saw. Okay, this is weird. I saw this. They were talking about stowaway,
Yeah,
and they're asking questions. And as they're asking questions, I see like this little girl, or not a little girl, because I can't say little girl. It's a young woman, and she's like this in the corner. But they're asking questions, and I'm feeling these feelings, and I'm saying to myself, but I can't speak, and I'm saying to myself, they're asking the wrong questions. And then, as I'm about to ask certain questions, Ron started asking the questions. And so then, like, I can feel what he was saying through the questions. It was just weird. But my point is, he started asking the questions, and I said to myself, those are the questions. That's the right direction. So anyway, after all that, I walk ahead, and he knows when there's something wrong with me, because I'm like, what happened there? And he goes, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. But it was just weird because I never had that happen. And when it did happen, when I saw the young lady, I saw it like if it was a thought. I didn't realize that I saw something. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I understand what you mean.
You know what I mean? So she holds a special place in my heart for not only the history, but just the experiences that I had with her, or when I was there. I don't know.
Even if you get no paranormal evidence, that is an elegant piece of floating history.
Mhm.
The ship's beautiful.
Yeah, I love her.
I used to even go there back in the day too, because there was a comedy club on the ship, and I knew the guy who ran it, and I did stand up back in the day. So I used to work the club there sometimes. The guy was originally from New York, so he knew me, and we used to hang out on the opposite side of the deck from what you're seeing now, on the side by the bay across from like the port of Long Beach and whatever. And so I used to spend time there even before I was doing paranormal stuff. But then after that started, I know I'd sent you the two pictures and
Right.
versions of them each zoomed in. So everybody tells you the rare instances of getting like wow pictures in the paranormal. So in 12 years or so of doing anything paranormal, I've got two instances of photos that were just like, holy crap.
Right.
And they both happened there. 2013 when I lived there, and then 2016 when we went back. This is the 2016 one.
Okay.
And so some of the other pictures I emailed, if you don't get to them, fine. I just realized I had them when we were sitting here. I went, oh, I should have sent more. This is the Art Deco bar, the observation bar.
Okay.
I had not ever gotten a picture of the sign on the outside. It's so really, really nice and elegant inside. And I have tons of pictures of it. I went, you know what? We were there. I said, let me step out of the room. I'm going to get a picture of the sign over the door. That was all I wanted. It was between shifts, so there was nobody in there except one waitress. And then she walked, if you're looking at the picture on your computer now, for everybody watching, to the right of your frame, right? Away from that silver railing stuff, the other direction. And then when she walked off, I stepped out of the room so I could frame. You see the signs at the top of the picture, and that's what I took. And that was done for like 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then I looked at the picture, and I saw, if you can see now in the three windows back there, yeah, I saw that. And I went, there was nobody there. What the hell is that? And then I zoomed in more, and it looks like a partially formed apparition of a woman looking down at a child. I think she has glasses on. It looks like, at least. But the kid's head, you can see the hairline and the ear and the little indentation where the eye socket from the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't believe it. And I know, because I waited for an empty bar with the one person who was a female, young girl, walked away out of frame, and then I took a picture of the sign. So I know there was nobody standing in that window.
Right. Yeah, that definitely looks like they're standing on the outside of the window. It's like they were talking, and
the one arm thing that looks like it's like this, it's like dark. I thought maybe that was just the image of whatever I captured kind of like meshed with like a table or some kind of a wooden thing on top of like a metal cylinder kind of, on a ship. And we went there the next year and
Mm-hmm.
I was trying, and there's nothing there. There's no table. There's nothing out there. So even that thing is some kind of a deformed
Arm.
manifestation of something. Like I can't.
I don't know.
And on the other side of her right cheek, looking down at the kid, there's like it almost looks like a slat of wood that comes down to like a triangle, like a point. And if you zoom in on the picture of her, you can see that either that piece of wood or whatever it is, either that would be in front of the kid's head or the kid's head would be in front of it and you wouldn't see the bottom of it. But you see both. It's like
Right.
they're both fused into the same
Yeah.
level of manifestation or visibility. So it was bizarre to me. So when we went back in 2017, right? No, 18.
18.
We went back in 18 the second time. We went to see if we could debunk and explain the picture. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's something out there. So we went outside. There was nothing there. So we get a table where those chairs are, those little arched things behind the maroon railing. So we get a table right in front of that window. So she sits down and I go outside of the room where I took the picture and I'm looking to see, is there something that maybe could have, and I'm going like this. And I'm trying to figure out. And then I went back and sat down and she goes, let me see if I can. So she went outside and she did. So we did this for like 20 minutes. And then the waitress goes, are you going to order anything?
It was so funny.
And we said, well, here's what we're doing, but yes, we'll have a drink. And then she told us stories about stuff she had experienced there also.
Yeah.
Wow.
When
So
I saw nothing.
my first reaction when I saw it was I thought maybe that was like a life vest that they were doing a drill or something, and the like you can see the back of it on the little girl's neck, and you're seeing the front of it on the woman's neck. It's hard to say.
It's
See, that's
interesting.
the
And I
thing.
thought little boy because of the hair being short, but it certainly could be a little girl. It's hard to tell.
What's interesting about the picture is that from earlier pioneers, they would say that they would come in distorted. So that's what that looks like. He
That's true.
captured something, but it's distorted, so you don't really quite know what that thing is around her head. I mean, around her neck, and the hat seems to. So it's, to me, knowing that seems to be perhaps paranormal because that's almost like the same thing. And he's sure there was no one there.
Right.
I don't know because it's just weird.
Yeah, if this is something we would not normally see and somehow was modulated into our dashboard of dials so our senses could perceive it, sometimes, with signal modulation, you can still have distortion. And that it appears that there's some modicum of that in this. But
yeah, and then it makes sense.
I see at least two individuals there, like you said, the woman and then the child, male or female. And I know that window, I didn't see anybody. And you saw from the picture of the door, you could see it from the original picture. I wouldn't have snapped the shot. I waited because all I wanted was a sign. I didn't want anybody in it.
Right.
Surprise,
Jamie.
Yeah.
Well, my first thought, a couple things here. I can see the shipyard behind it. Like there's a crane off to the left side of the upper left, and then the lights back there. So, that's depth perception, right? And we know that that's going to be off in the distance at least somewhat. So this is close. It's not like something far out there where it could have been part of equipment or something. It definitely has that near depth, I guess perception. I definitely can see the two, what seems to be two unique individuals. What's really fascinating is the color context. It's not like it's just pale. There's definitely shadowing and shading to it. There's more depth in it than just, I'm gonna say this to be funny, I swear, but it's not just somebody wearing a sheet like we expect ghosts to look like.
Right.
That really uniquely looks like a person.
Yeah.
And even on your picture from the doorway, you could tell there's something there clearly. And this is a great close up, and thank God for digital cameras and technologies that we have now versus like if this was a Polaroid, back in the day. That might be as good as it got from that distance, but that is really neat.
Yeah, there you can see it's not like something placed in front of there because you got a continuation of the rigging from the first window or the middle window into the thing. So it's
definitely a whole set of cranes back there.
Yeah, it's definitely a great capture on.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bizarre, and I didn't see it for like 6 months because I wasn't trying to get evidence. I was just trying to get a picture of the door with the sign.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, I was like, wait, what? Yeah, see, Albert, you can see the woman's face. Yeah, and that's
Yeah, I
what
agree.
that's what really threw me off, is because
It makes you think.
that was taken with an iPhone. I remember which one. If it was I'd have to see what, based on the year, what I had. It was either like the X or the 12, whatever. It wasn't the one I have now. And then the other one that you'll see, the other picture I gave you, that one was taken with a Samsung Galaxy Note 3 I had at the time. That's this one. So this is below. This big gallery used to be a boiler room. They made it into like a gallery space. On the other side of the far wall is boiler room number 3, which is one of the alleged hotspots for haunting stuff. For reference, the pool is above the room behind that wall on the far side. And the heat for the pool would come from the boiler room in that room, right? That was the heat source. And from what we were told, when the third class passengers would swim, before the first class passengers went in to swim, they would drain the pool and fill it with clean water because they had less class. That's from what I understand true as what they did. So this one, this is 2013. The website oversold tickets. Usually the tours there that were given by a gentleman named Matthew Schultz from Para Explorer out of San Diego. He used to also do the Whaley House. So he was running this. It was after, I forget the lady's name who did it, when the what's his face, the psychic medium with the, who looks like Einstein with the big mustache. Peter James.
Yes.
This is the generation after Peter James was kind of like headquartered there. So usually the tours were 23 people. He did a masterful job at dealing with the public and doing tours in the ship. A lot of how I learned to do public tours when I was with teams, it was from him. And there were 40 something people, I think 43 people on the tour this time. And it was during Halloween, so they would reroute it so it went away from any of the noise that was going on up until like midnight, where they had any kind of party stuff going on. And this was after midnight now. Nobody has access to be lower in this part of the ship without crew and security, mainly to unlock doors to get to this point. So if you need to leave or go to the bathroom, you have to tell them because you're not going to get to it otherwise. Everybody was facing the direction we're looking at in this picture, except for the guy giving the tour. And me and then the lady I was with at the time had been through a bunch of his stuff because, like I said, I used to go there all the time since 2012. But he's like, you guys have heard my spiel. Go ahead and walk ahead if you want. So I went a little bit further ahead of the group. But 40 people, 41, let's say, 40 people plus him, security, were looking in this direction. If there was anybody in that far doorway, I'd have seen it. And I wouldn't have taken a picture. And I took just one of the corner, one there, and then one of the, a little bit more to the right. Like I went corner to center to corner. And when I got home to my apartment, I was looking through these photos, just how you do, swiping through. I got to that one and I paused and went, wait, what? And I put my phone down and I slid it across the glass table to the lady I was with. I said, tell me if you see anything. And she went, oh my God, you got something. And that was it. It was a shadow figure, robed, hooded, and I showed it to the guy at the Queen Mary afterwards, Matt Schultz, and the little hand that looks like Boney on the door to the left of the picture. There's nothing, and that door is flush. It's got a push bar on the other side. There's nothing, no knob, handle, markings, nothing. It's just white like the wall. It's just a little bit indented from the wall because it's a door. So that little bony hand thing in the other arm that's kind of braced against the door. The two white spots underneath it, if you see the perimeter lights in the background, they go around the right side of that room. They were shining under it like it was partly opaque. It's partly casting forward shadow. A couple people, when I first showed it, were like, that's somebody in a costume wearing white sneakers. First of all, the sneakers were white. They wouldn't be that diffused looking. It'd be a harder light, probably even somewhat reflective based on the surface of the sneaker. And who's going to go to all that trouble to put on an entirely full black costume where you can't even see their face and then wear white Adidas? Right?
Right.
It's the diffused light coming under it, and it matches the trajectory of those two lights from behind it.
What's compelling is that if it wasn't for that hand, you could always explain it away, I would think, because you could say the shadows.
Yep.
But that arm being out, is just, you can't. That's, you see,
both arms.
Well, both arms, yeah.
And some people,
you're on both.
they see like they think it's a male or female. They see. I don't see detail in the face enough to draw a determination like that. Some people have. I don't see it. To me, this is very Grim Reaperish.
But where's the second arm? Show me where the second arm is on the wall.
The right arm is on the door.
That's what I'm saying.
That one.
Yeah.
And then this one is going here.
Well, no, I know. But what I'm saying is
2 arms.
I get that, honey. But let's just say if this arm was in here, someone could always say that it's the lighting or whatever. But because that arm is for me.
Yeah.
Because that arm is there, it just makes it more compelling.
I agree on the more compelling. I still think you couldn't dismiss it even with that right arm on that face of the door on the other side.
Yeah, no,
it's still too much stuff. You can still see like the hooded thing. That was the first thing that sobered me up early on in my paranormality days, that there is something to all this stuff. And so this is not a belief system thing. I believe that ghosts should be real because energy is created or destroyed thermodynamic. No, I saw that freaking thing and I was like, now I'm supposed to go to sleep. No.
So cool. I think I've got the rest of your slides here. Yeah, here we go. So
just to show you how scenic and beautiful it is. So that's a Russian submarine. I think it's called the Scorpion.
I want to go in
it's
there.
It's part of the tour. I took my son in it a couple of times when we lived out there. We would go and they had these little gun turret thing on top of the ship to the side. Okay. I think if any of the pictures have the smokestacks on the top, they repainted them all, so they're even brighter red now. That's the engine room.
Yep. I had a night. That's not the exact spot where I had that other thing happen to me. I saw like this. I don't know how to explain it. It was like, you know, when fire and then you look on top of the fire and you see the wiggly, heat. Yeah. So in that
did you say squigglies?
Yeah. It's almost, you know what I mean. So
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, from far without fire, I see that. I'm like, what is that? And it was amazing because he was a medium, right?
Yeah.
And that's his gift. And he was telling me about it. And I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. And how many days was that that later on, hours later, I look and I'm like, what you see, and then I described, because he didn't really describe how it looked. And I described to him what I saw. And he goes, that's exactly what I see.
Wow,
but
cool.
Yeah, it was just weird. That's why it's just that engine room is crazy. And I just love that ship.
There are probably more recorded deaths of spirit boxes in that area than anything else because they do not pick up any radio signal whatsoever.
But you hear whispers, like seriously, you do. Like one time I was with his friend Katie Foreman. Was it Katie Foreman?
I think so.
And we were doing an investigation. You're in the engine room, and she goes, "Do you hear that?" And I said, "I do." And she goes, "What do you hear?" And I go, "Like it was like whispering." And she's like, that's exactly what I hear. You hear, like, you got to experience it. It's just, it's an amazing place.
I heard that they're removing the lifeboats, or they have started to, or they're going to remove the lifeboats on the side.
Yeah.
It's a nice touch. I think it looks really cool, but I think with some of the repairs and stuff they were trying to do, I think it was unnecessary money to fix or something. I don't know.
It was a combination of that and the weight of them, because some of them, and a lot of them were not original. Because I found that in my research, a lot of them were from other ships because over years, ships get scrapped, and they would take the lifeboats and replace the bad ones, and so which makes sense. So
I took this one from one of the upper decks outside.
We have to go back. Let's take a field trip, all of us. Let's go.
Let's see what else we have here.
Well, yeah, Lord, is there every episode we seem to do, there's a call for a road trip. And
had
it earlier, right? That was my time log. Every time we have it, I note that just for the record. But yeah, this one, and it's, maybe a flight will get us there faster, but definitely.
It will.
It's good.
As we go here, I want to share that I've been to the ship, but I've never been in it. I was in Southern California for quite a while. Former Californian to Ron, but it's more Central Coast. And with respects to seeing it for the first time, I was heading somewhere to get somewhere else, kind of thing, and saw it, and I was like, wow, what is that? Didn't realize what I was seeing, and it's kind of like it's an intentional thing to get there mostly. But there was a bar nearby or a restaurant nearby that was meeting people at. and like you don't forget seeing it. It's just majestic.
Road
Yeah.
trip. Oh wait, I'm on one. That's funny, Heather.
She is majestic.
And I don't even know if all
Road
these
trip,
shops are still there. I like that Dragon shop. I think
Yeah,
is
it may
gone
be
now.
different, but they probably have something else there.
Yeah.
But
And it's like this is one of the rooms that was displayed. Like you couldn't go in, and I took this through. That's why you see a little bit of like that purplish color. I took it through the plexiglass. It's one of the rooms I think that was operational at the
isn't
time.
that
Like
the when we were heading there, we smelled the cigar smell? Did you remember? Do you remember the
that was
cigar
right outside that area.
smell?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was when it was
Yep.
strong, a cigar smell, and then we went in there. Yep.
I want to qualify this comment from Todd and Carmela that Lord as this would be road trip number 101 on Chad and Jamie's list. Technically, it's number 81 because this is episode 81. But it feels like 101.
Mm-hmm.
The irony was, I wouldn't know if you knew, but one of the main highways that goes through Los Angeles, besides the 495, is the 101.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So good job, Mr. 222, with the 101 at 9:50 p.m.
with the 411.
With the 411. Thank you. Yes.
Well, actually, you take the 5, but that's a different thing.
That's correct.
Take the 5 to get down there.
That was during a New Year's Eve event that I went to before I guess everybody got in. And it was cool because when I became friends with Matt Schultz from Power Explorer, who did the events, when I would go to do the ghost hunts, people would come there and he goes, how many people read that this was going to be 2 hours? Everyone raised their hand. He goes, all right, it's not. You're going to be here for 4. And then blah, 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 whatever he explained. And then so he would let me come early and go into the areas to investigate before it started. And then when it was done, and we did it too with him. Mm-hmm. Everybody would leave or go back to their hotel rooms. He would say, just hang back with me, hang back. And then everybody would go, and it would just be us two and him, who was the guide. And we would go into like the engine room and the little hut thing, or we would go in one of the other areas and we would do EVPs and ghost box, whatever. And he let us do, extra time, at least another hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I don't know if he's still there anymore.
He makes it a great experience. Yeah. I hope he's still there because he's really cool. And he makes it worth it. Like he really gives he gives the public a good experience.
Yeah, he made it fun.
Yeah.
Really a master class on how to do a public investigation. Yep. I took this picture because if you go on the ship and you don't take this one, I think they can kick you off. Everybody takes it looking for that white apparition down the hallway picture, but a lot of people, from what I'm told, have gotten those. They have gotten something in the hallway when there was nothing, something misty or looks like a misty person or whatever. And so on a couple different occasions, I took photos like this.
Nothing.
Just because it's what you do. I didn't catch anything in those. The ones I got were the ones you saw. And the observation bar, which was really unexpected. And then the one down in the entrance to boiler room number 3.
It's a cool pic still.
Yeah, I mean, this just shows the beauty of the ship. I mean, since its restoration.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Your firsthand experience, is it matters. Because obviously you have a passion for the location. But in the paranormal world, there are how many shows are out there, right? The gazillion of them. Most of them, who are more the mainstream ones, have done an episode on the Queen Mary, and it's fascinating because it has drawn our attention in the paranormal field, at least for a very, very long time. And it's not new that way. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of a show called the Holzier Files, and Hans Holzier's original work back in the 60s and 70s is being revisited. Dave Schrader and a few other medium, usually Cindy Kaza and I forget their partner's name.
Shane Pittman,
investigator. Yeah, and they did an episode there, and it was interesting to me because Holzier was there back in the 60s, and he interviewed people, he documented everything, and they went back to recount all that stuff, and they still had experiences in the same vein of the experiences that was explained to them back then. So it's fascinating. It's carrying forward and forward and forward, and this is not unique, right? I mean, we know this from other locations. The reason I think we're drawn to these places is there's consistency. And just whether it occurs while we're there, that's always the challenge, and I make this comment all the time at the brewery. As I start to kick off our investigations, I get to cover the ground rules, which is like the part that sucks. Here's what you can't go, here's what you can't do, but then I'm like, just kind of explaining the experience to expect. And I'm like, well, it's highly unlikely anyone's going to walk out of the wall and introduce themselves to us, but we're going to be ready if they do.
Mhm.
But that's what brings us back, because it might happen. And
Yeah.
there's a report that you caught these awesome images. That kind of stuff builds into the story, and all the other experiences people have had. That I've heard that tale of a figure in white in the hallways over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That brings people back. It brought you
Yeah.
back, obviously. So
And then you experience something, then you want to keep experiencing it.
Even
It's
if
true.
even if nothing happened, I would want to go.
Yeah, that too.
It's not the most active place I've ever been. It's in the top 10 for sure of that list. But
Queen
it's my
Mary?
favorite. Yeah, but it's my
Yeah.
favorite place of all of them that I've ever been.
Well,
Still,
and-
to, still to date, and they have a log when you go there for the hotel rooms that have activity that's been reported by guests. So you can request one of those rooms also
right.
if you want. And I know there was one episode of Ghost Hunters, and then there's a lot of lure around. I think if I have the room number wrong, I apologize, but I think it's 234. That it was all this guy killed his family, this whole murder. I forget what the story is, but some whole crazy murder kind of something happened in the room.
Right.
You'll hear both sides. It's true. It's not true. I trust Matt Schultz. When he did the tours, he used to call B 234. He used to call it BS 234. He goes, because
Yeah.
it's bullshit. Nothing happened in here.
Right. Was B340 is another one.
That's
Yeah.
probably it.
I think
That's the
what
one
it
then.
is.
Yeah, that's why I said I might have the number wrong.
Yeah.
It's B340. So he called it BS 340.
Right.
It's weird because for me, the Queen Mary, that's the most active that I've been. But the thing is, so is Hinsdale, so is Shani, so is David Oman. But since it's consistent, but but not consistent enough that it happens every time. So they're all on the same level to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
place that we go and we experience stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the main dining halls. Yeah, see, I went there much more than she had in the two visits. So if I rated places on the
Yeah.
most active,
That's true.
it
Yeah.
was very. But number one is David Oman's house, which when we go back there those two times when we went to the Queen Mary, we would go during the week one night to David Oman's house in Beverly Hills. For those who don't know, that's the same land, not the same house that the Manson Tate murders happened in '69. It was subdivided into 4 lots. David Oman and his dad built on one of them. And then later on, when we went another time, I know that there were college kids that were
Yeah.
all like renting the one next to it together. So they let us come in there with him too. That place is probably the most wacky, consistently active place I've ever been.
Yeah, because even the house next door had some activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seen some crazy stuff happen there. And then when I wasn't there, other people went. First time I went there, 7 of us watched a picture frame, a big movie poster, wooden frame, glass front, had some heft to it, come off the wall in slow motion, one hook at a time, and then go flat, like the pancake down flat into the bar. And then David caught it.
Wow.
We watched it like it came off one hook at a time, like a person would take it off, and I was like, we were just staring at it, going, like, what's happening?
And do we want him? I always think about that.
Yeah.
There too.
Well,
It
going
was-
back to Bert's comment about the Queen Mary, he said he feels like there would be a lot of residual activity there, just with like what we're talking about, the troop transport that it was, and like just having all those people crammed on that
Yeah, stowaways too.
space and stowaways and even the War Bride stuff. Apparently, they caught stowaways on the War Bride trips. Things,
Yeah.
just it's just it had so much energy that was shared on it.
And the ship that got sawed in half, actually, it was the RMS Curacao, and the Curacao is the one that had 300 and something soldiers going to the water, or crew people going to the water.
Yeah, man.
So it could be from that too.
Yeah, and the Curacao was running a protective. It was zigzagging because it was
That's what I
running
was
a
saying.
protective
Yep.
missile thing in front of it.
Yep.
And yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the hull. That's the front. Right below that area is where it hit. It made the impact with the Curacao.
Okay.
Where the damage was done, where there was a hole in it where they had to fix the front of the ship.
And can you imagine patching that with 70 tons of concrete and saying, sail to your next port and we'll fix it there?
Yeah.
So this wasn't the part where it happened, but if you look straight ahead, as if you're walking into the picture, that front farthest part you can see, it was like 2 levels, I think, below that, where the actual impact where it hit the Curacao was.
Wow.
But it's It's wild. That's one of the other display rooms that's close to the front of the ship. That's
I
why
could
you
see
can see me
you.
kind of taking the picture.
I
Uh-huh.
could
That's not a
see
ghost.
you.
That's the engine room shaft alley, they called it. That's one of the shafts
Yeah,
Okay.
man. Oh,
that goes all the way
I
down.
love that area.
And there's definitely stories of the engine rooms and the boiler rooms. Um,
Yeah.
Hatch 13 is there where one of the guys was killed during a muster drill, I believe.
Yeah,
I thought he got crushed, no?
he got crushed by the water lock door 13,
Hmm.
and it was what was his name? John?
John or Jim? Jim?
No,
John?
John.
I
I know his name
forget.
by heart for years. It'll come to me. Stories were mixed between whether or
Fisher?
not
No.
somebody was upset with him and pushed him when the door was closing, and
Uh-huh.
it cut him in half. If he was trying to get out in time because of the
Was it
ship
with a
was
P?
taking on
John.
Petter,
That's it.
John
I
Petter.
knew it.
There you go.
Teamwork.
So if he was accidentally getting out and he got trapped, there's
Uh-huh.
different versions whether it was intentional or not. But yeah, it was John Petter. He was a young guy. I think he had an electrical background and he was working down in the engine room. Younger than I think most of the other crew was.
Well, he was 18-year-old. He was 18 years old.
There you go.
And apparently he's seen in blue coveralls wandering around, and he's actually asked people if they've seen his wrench, and they'll go to turn around and answer him, and he'll be gone. So
Yeah, I think a lot of the EVP stuff and things moving and certain activity like banging sounds that people hear down there are
mhm.
attributed to John Petter also. I know when Matt
Yeah.
Schultz did the tour, he shows pictures of him and then does like a session like EVP and stuff for everybody to see, I guess trigger wise, like he holds up a picture of him.
Mhm.
He said he liked the ladies.
Yeah. You hear a lot of whispers in that
Yeah.
engine room.
So those are the smokestacks, and I think the one in the front, maybe because of the lighting is darker, it's in the shade. But they did start painting those. The last time we were there, one of them or two of them were already painted. Not all three.
The
Okay.
second time we were there?
Yeah,
I thought they were. No, maybe you're right.
they weren't finished.
Yeah. Okay.
But they were starting to do it, and now they've all been painted. I think since.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that things had been like that had been painted right over the peeling paint from before,
Yeah.
so it wasn't really protecting anything, and it was just coming off and
Yeah.
rusting, and it was a shame what actually had happened to it over the years. So I'm glad it got taken care of.
Yeah, me too.
It's nice. It's like hotel wise.
Look, I love that.
That's the deck that leads into one of the restaurants on. I forget what deck number or name it is, but yeah, back in the day, there were like chairs and stuff there for people to lounge and stuff.
It's just beautiful. It reminds me, of course, of the Titanic. It's so beautiful.
Mhm.
And even as big as it is, and bigger than the Titanic, when the new cruise lines are docked behind it in Long Beach, it looks small.
Yeah.
Even though when you're there and you're on it, it's not. But some of those ships are ridiculous.
Yeah.
So this was a picture I got in the pool area. It was a weird like that light bar anomaly. I don't know what that is. I know that it matches the color of the exit sign, but I know that the exit sign is not a straight eye line between there and the sign itself. So I don't know what that could be.
And I don't think it's movement because nothing else is blurry, right?
No.
Right? So it's not like it says exit and it's like blurry because
Yeah.
of movement. Because it doesn't seem like anything else is blurry. So
Yeah, it's not a deflating balloon.
It's interesting. Yeah, I see
Yeah,
your sign.
it's
I can see the
interesting.
exit sign above there to the right.
So, yeah, Todd and Carmelo want to know if there's an exact number of known spirits on the ship.
I don't know, and I honestly, if anybody gave you a number, that would be like me giving you the lotto numbers.
See, you stole my joke because I was going to
Go
say
ahead.
3,223 ghosts.
222.
Oh, that's what I should have said.
222. Todd, it's 200. That's their name. 222 Paranormal. Yeah, there's no way to know that people could have experiences where maybe they have audio evidence, and then they go, "How many spirits are on the ship?" And something says 230, or you could have something where somebody tells you that, but there's really no way to know
Right.
with any certainty. It would be speculation, and it would be based
Yeah.
on if you walked up to the living, right, on a normal night when the hotel is kind of buzzing and there's an event going on, there's a battle of the bands in the one ballroom, and somebody goes, "How many people do you think are on the ship tonight?" You ask 2 different people, you're going to get 2 different answers. So it's really hard to know. But I'm going to say 3 because I'm an investigator. I need to have proof. There's 3, and one of them is named Chad. I know that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great question, but it's
hard to
a insurmountable task to answer. So
Well,
this
is that point where no one walks out of the wall and introduces themselves to you, right? I mean,
right.
we do so much deduction, and through the course of repetitive time, like obviously, you've had a wonderful pleasure of going back and back and back, and we can speak to this from our home base at Mount Joy, at Boob's Brewery. We get the ability to go back, therefore we get to have that recorded trajectory of information, and it's not just a one-off. The fact that they have a log really helps, right? But in the same spirit of that, pun intended, maybe, they don't have the name of something. You have to do your own detective work, to kind of piece things together for who it could be. Well, and it has to correspond to log records of the ship itself, whether it be crew or guest or whatnot. And an incident report, probably even more so than the log. So there's so many things that are what ifs to this that we'll probably never know. But 3 is a good number. I'll work with you on that.
3, yeah.
Well, Todd says, I guess that have been seen. Do you know if there's about the little girl and John Patter?
No, Petter.
Sorry. And there's a few stories.
Yeah, there's a few different stories. Yeah. One of the other things is that there's no centralized repository of reported experience, and you have just like the data they have in neural imaging and NDEs and stuff, and you have the non-report cases, where stuff has not been.
That's true too.
So I don't.
But
I don't know.
But the known stories is him and the little girl.
There's a few famous ones.
That's what I think. That's what Todd is trying to ask.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
There's no bells.
There's the Mayfair room. There's the Morientia. Yeah, I don't know how to say that word. The VIP room. Like there's a bunch of.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, the pool has a spirit of a child of some child or children.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on and on.
Jackie the Ghost Girl.
That's
So, I think the only way to figure this out is to go visit it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Extensive on-site research. That's how we're going to figure it out.
Yep.
We're going to have to move in. That's it.
I don't recognize
this. You weren't with me when I took this.
I know, but what is it?
That. It's a ship.
I'm
kidding. So the it's a Burger King early on.
Come on now.
This is the picture with the shadow figure standing in the doorway. This is the level above it. So if you look to the right of the picture where you see like stairs and there's a little escalator next to that going down, if you go down those, you'll be facing the way we're looking at the picture now, and you'll be facing that door where I took that picture.
Okay.
This is a level up from that. When you do certain parts of the tour, to the left of the picture, if you're looking straight at this photo, to the left, there's an elevator that you come from the one area by the pool, and you come up into here, and then you walk across, and then you go down, and it takes you into the engine room.
Yeah, I remember this. I know where this is now. Because there's a big room, right? And then there's like 2 stairs.
Yeah.
Is it that room?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
If you look to the other side, the far left of the picture in the back, you can see where there's 2 people by that one picture on the wall, and then the railing curves. That's going down. That's the other stairway that matches that one.
Yeah, I know where it is.
And there's a stage there.
I forgot about
that they used to use for. I'm not sure what they were using.
I was gonna say there's a stage there. Yeah. I mean, now I remember that room.
Yeah.
So I think that's the end of your pictures. So yeah, it's definitely.
I had a few more, but some of them were almost identical to the ones I sent you. But just to throw a few. Yeah, I miss it. That was my favorite place. The favorite place to go. That was the first investigation I ever did, public investigation, and then I think after that was the Glen Tavern Inn in Santa Paula. And then once I got into it, and I bought my little SB7 and a little Bluetooth speaker, a little wire for it to connect it, and then I had that and a millimeter. I think were my first 2 things.
I think
and I went there every month.
Maybe we'll pick a date. I don't know, from a year from now or whatever, and then we just invite a whole bunch of people, and then whoever makes it can make it, and if not, not. I mean, and then see what happens.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do that, and then I just blast everybody, and whoever can make it.
Chad and Jamie are required though,
Yeah,
and
and then it'll give everybody enough time to.
And because I know how you Jott-Nyx people roll at your event, so you guys are invited only if you bring cookies.
we got you covered. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll get worried about that. Yeah. So
You guys would love it though. I mean, because you mentioned the Boobies Brewery in Mount Joy. That's now become one of my favorite places. Also,
that's
just
a good
because it's
place.
unbelievably intricate and the history behind it and all the different the immensity of it that you don't even get the full
I know, we need
picture
to
of
go
when you walk
again.
in. That place is amazing. So you guys already know what it's like you said, to have a recurring ticket at a place that is worth going back to over and over and over again.
Yeah.
You would love the Queen Mary. When you walk on the ship, you start looking around. It's like, holy cow! When you start going into like the bowels of the ship and the engine rooms and those big galleries down there, and again, this is way before. This is pre-direct radio voice and Staticom. I would love to do Staticom in that ship because now we know, based on how the white noise and resonance works, that we don't need radio signal. And we were trying to run SB11s and stuff in the engine room area of the ship.
And you would get little, maybe, not really.
Not so much there, but yeah,
Not
but
really,
in some parts of the ship you could, like in the hole in the front of the ship.
Yeah, you got it.
You can get a little bit of signal there, but
that's the beauty of her, because when you walk in, first you're just amazed at how beautiful she is, and then you start thinking about all the things that happen, right?
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And then if you get an experience, wonderful. And you're going, if you should definitely do that. I hope he's there, Matthew
Schultz. I don't know. There's a guy who does. I can't
because
remember the guy's name. He does
down
the tours
there,
now. I'm not sure if he's still there.
Yeah, when you go down there, just the feeling of it. If it's not an experience, just being there, it's just amazing. You know, it's just yeah. We're gonna do that.
I'm going to ask you something, and it's an opinion question. Okay. Before I say that, even before you said how great it would be to have Staticom there, my first thought was, oh my God, Staticom there. Like that's about as far out into the advance of where we are with things as we could get, and I think that's super awesome. And yes, I'm in. Let's go. We can leave tomorrow.
Seriously.
I probably will be in big trouble if I do that, but we'll have to plan it. But yes, but one of the things that gets me with this ship, and we'll come back to the East Coast. We have the Battleship New Jersey as an opportunity that is open to the paranormal. We get down to the Carolinas. I forget the name, but there's a U.S. battleship or a warship there that's open to the paranormal. And other places where there's things like boats and stuff. And one of the things that has always struck me is that we hear, at least, that one of the elements that inspires or helps to promote paranormal activity is water. And these ships are on water. So, I'm wondering if, in your opinion, is that any of the element to this, as much as there is the activities or the traumas or the dramas that may have occurred there that would have caused, someone to find that place to be worthy of their afterlife and, their time there. But does that seem like it could be something to it as well?
I'm going to say, for me personally, there's something about water that gives me peace. So maybe there is something about water that can do something, with trauma, or maybe I don't know. There's something with water, I think, also, because if it makes me feel peace, then maybe there is something to it with the trauma, and maybe it does. I don't know. I think it could be something. There is something to say for it. Let's say that, perhaps. What do you think?
I think, yeah, I mean, I always hesitate.
I know.
On the she knows, especially since we've taken on more of
but that's why I think that
an idealist philosophy perspective on reality and stuff. It's a little bit, because I don't know how much empirical data exists that ties things like the railroad tracks and water running, to.
Because I don't think it's the railroad tracks. I think it's the sound that the railroad tracks made. And with the water, I don't know I don't know. It's just weird. I think weird. I don't know.
Well,
I
the
think
railroad tracks aren't making much noise unless there's a train going by.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean. It's not necessarily the tracks itself and the train, but maybe the noise that it makes that stirs up the mop-off blanket and it makes change in the mop-off blanket. So I don't know. This is my thing of thinking, and I don't know if I'm right. I come up with theories all the time. I'm not saying that I'm right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think because of those are, water is a conductor,
I don't know
right?
if it's
I think because it's a conductor,
maybe
then the whole energy can't be created or destroyed and thermodynamic thing that gets kind of thrown around.
it's
I don't
something
know that
behind that. I think
I don't know that there's any causal properties, but maybe they help facilitate, like people think. Maybe
it's something is happening that gives it the appearance that maybe water is a conductor. If those are better words, maybe I don't know, but
well, that's right.
something's going on.
That's,
there.
I guess, my question, and I don't have the answer to it. Is this concept of water being an enabler for paranormal activity? Is it supported in any way empirically through experimentation when water was used and then it was removed?
Mhm.
Is it only because energy gets thrown around? Energy, everything, energy. Energy can't be destroyed. Is it that? Are we just kind of like blanketing the whole energy thing? And because it's a conductor, we go, well, anywhere you have that, you have activity because it allows for it. It facilitates it. I don't know that it's grounded in anything empirically. I think it's a convenient theoretical model, having these things in place for activity being able to happen. And if there is
Those are
data that
extras.
supports it, then
Yeah.
then by all means, I think someone should bring that forth.
Yeah, those are extras. That's what I'm saying. Those are extras. I think there is something going on, and what it appears to be is not really what it is. There's something behind that. So whatever that is, I mean, who knows? But there could be something to it.
Well, this is like anything else, right? There is the coincidental opportunity thing, and because there is
Right.
something there, right? And it could be anything. It could be, a boulder, or, it could be the type of grass, whatever,
Yeah,
because this happened because of that, and water is, we need water, right? We all need water to live. That's one of the very simple things, the elemental things that we need. So I guess we can connect those, ethereally, we can connect them to be a bigger piece. And we want to make something make sense. And that's what we do, right? We have to have
Right.
something that
No,
makes sense to us, at least to justify,
yep,
spot
and
on. I
yep.
think
take it
that's
from
where
there, kind of thing.
it leads down a rabbit hole.
And it gets lost. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, because when people are talking about these things being facilitators or conductors or even causally involved with paranormal activity, it's because of the idea of energy and that it's conducted, or they'll say it with things that can store it. But then you're going down the rabbit hole of physicalism or materialism, that there's a world out there outside of consciousness that has standalone physical existence. So when you go down that road, you have to now have physics explain the paranormal stuff that you're saying exists outside of physics. And that's where you start having an internal
exactly.
contradiction in theory, because you're saying that this stuff is beyond science and physics, materialism, right? Can't explain it because it's something immeasurable. And then we know it's happening because there's water and rocks and things that, so we're now appealing to physics at the same time we're saying this is outside of the bounds of
Right.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm
physics.
saying. There is something happening because we have the need to explain it, and then we go crazy. But there's something happening, but it's what's behind that. That's the only way that I can explain it. But
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
there has to. I feel like there's something going on.
Yeah. Now see, what Jerry wrote was interesting. He said he truly believes water has something to do with the paranormal.
Yep.
I got a lot of EVPs with
See,
water sound in the background. So that's really an astute observation. I'll tell you why. Because our whole concept behind
can you see?
Staticom is resonance with the white noise, right?
Mhm.
And if you have a water source in the background that's making any kind of an audible sound, even if it's very low and almost not detectable, now you have audio support environmentally from something that's putting white noise and the ability for some level of stochastic resonance to happen to make something. You'll have sometimes disembodied voices that are heard because of something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised that in that case, it is in that case, I think, not causal to the AVPs, but I think it does enable
Yeah.
the modulation of the experience, at least to get to a level where the microphone will pick it up.
And
Right.
that's one experience. And I believe that that's why everything gets confused, because perhaps there are things that happen besides that gives it that appearance that it may be a conductor. But
Right.
there's something to it, though, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the banes of the existence of the paranormalist is the confusion between causality and correlation. Because something happens all the time when you have evidence, then we say, well, it's involved, because every time I've recorded anything, there's water involved.
Mm.
But we've explained on many other opportunities, you can always correlate firemen in a fire truck with a large fire, but that is not to say that they are the cause of it.
Right.
Even though you do have a correlation, that you'll see that and you'll see that.
Yeah.
Right.
So something we hesitate on, but with the EVP instance, like Jerry mentioned, that's yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
I think it's part of
And
modulating.
I love when that
experience.
happens.
Yep.
I do.
Yep.
The best.
Wow, definitely a lot to take in and think about there. So
Before we move too far along here, I want to go way back.
Sure.
In looking at the time bar, it says an hour ago. So, to bring this question in, it says it's from Todd and Carmela. Silly question. What's with all the zeros and the timer at the top? Well, that's a countdown timer. I have no idea why it's there, because it is
The show
something
self-destruct.
we see to let us know when we're about to start. So I have no idea why it's present on your side. It should be on our side. But the second part of this is the interesting thing. Also, speaking of ships, the SS United States is in Philly at Penn's Landing, is set to be moved to Florida, I believe, to become a reef. And this is important because this is the ship that took the blue ribbon from the Queen Mary, and it is now being put to, well, it is out of commission, but it's being put to technically its final resting place.
Yeah.
And I saw this in the news in the last week or so. So I agree. I didn't realize the relationship it had to the Queen Mary at the time, or in the competitive sense of its running time and being a compatriot of the era. So that's really cool. So thanks for catching that.
Here in Florida, because that must be a cool spot to visit if they have like snorkeling and you can see it, depending on how deep it is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure, scuba either way. Absolutely.
I would do it. Well, I'm glad the Queen Mary's not going to be a reef, because I wouldn't visit it that way.
Well, yeah, that's different though, baby.
But I'll go have a steak and then explore. I'll do that.
There you go.
And cookies with my friends Jamie and Chad.
There you go.
I'll do that.
We'll have pre and post cooking.
Pre and post cookies. You guys roll right. Yeah.
So, by the way, I haven't slept since I had those cookies, so there's so much sugar in them.
Yeah, they were good.
They were this big.
I know.
They were.
I was like, are these delicious hubcaps or treats?
They're hubcaps. Yeah, that's a great way to say it.
They were big cookies. I was not complaining.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's cool. Oh, yeah.
Todd and Carmela. They're awesome.
I guess they visited, right?
Where aren't they at these days?
I know.
Yeah, no,
they're a cool couple.
They're everywhere, supporting everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, weren't they just down with
Chris and Audra?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, they were at the Montgomery house, and then they came back on Monday and reviewed evidence, and then filled in for the guest got sick that was supposed to be on Anthony Voices. And then they filled in with evidence they reviewed that night.
I know.
Chris dropped him off at the airport, and that night he's interviewing him on the show with evidence they just got from the weekend that they reviewed when they got home. I was like, wow, I feel like I'm slacking.
I know, because they are like on top of it always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're on. Yeah, like, what are you reviewing? Stuff we haven't recorded yet. The session's tomorrow, but we're reviewing it now.
It's so funny.
It's like, all right. Yeah, they're fantastic. They're really cool.
Yeah, there's one in every crowd. Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
They've been coming out and supporting us and everybody that they can support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always appreciate when they're with us. I'm having trouble downloading the picture that they sent me, but yeah, it's definitely cool.
Well, this explains it all. There it is. I'm neurotic.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great though.
It's
he gets it done. It's exciting.
He does get it done.
Well, I think I can say this I know I can say this for myself, and I'm sure I can say it for others. It is easy to come out of an investigation, and you bring your bag in the house, kind of thing. You set it down, and it's over there, and you need rest first, so you do that, and the next day you got to do the stuff you didn't do the time that you were away to investigate,
Right.
and then life continues. Like we're weekend warriors to a large degree, and
Right.
because we all have day jobs and we all do things that, allow us to afford the things that we like to do, like this. And, that gets in the way. And then we have other obligations, and whether it be, family or extensions of that, whatnot, other interests, we're connected to other things. And next thing you know, a week goes by, maybe two, maybe three,
Mhm.
and then a cycle like us with the brewery, the recycle repeats every month. It used to be every 2 weeks, which was really challenging, to kind of get ahead or keep up, because again, all that other static stuff, which is all very important. Don't get me wrong. I think we all need to have that, but
Yeah.
it just makes it a challenge, and like one time I swear, I don't know how long this ran for, or how long it's continued, but I went to record with the recorder I use all the time, and it was full. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, oh
I,
crap, I got to download all this, and I dump it into a file, and I date it and everything, and where we were at and everything, and then I get to it. But it is a hard challenge, and the intentionality is. I love that Tard and Carmela have the intentionality to get to it right away, because that's
Mhm.
commitment, that's dedication, that
yeah.
is
I love that stage because they're
passion.
they're good. They're good, and they're kind of fairly new, right? But they're good
Mhm.
investigators. I
Very,
think they've
yeah.
been
Very.
investigating
2 years.
at two
Yep.
to 3 years. I'm not sure, but that stage is like the best stage because when you love something and you love it together and they're doing it, it's like. But then after a while, that may happen, what you're saying, because there's
Oh
so much
yeah.
going on. But that stage is an awesome stage.
Oh,
Yeah.
so their comment here, dare we ask about storage space for investigation at boobies? You can ask.
So, and this is that picture that they shared. So that's the USS or the SS United States in the background there.
Oh, cool.
That's neat.
Yeah.
But
That's cool.
it's cool to see ships like that are being used for something else instead of just
Right.
broken down.
Right.
You make a reef, make a place for divers to explore things like that.
Sure. Well, it's a habitat as well,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's
Which
that's
is
the better
nice.
part
Right.
of it as well.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying. If
observing,
they had to be anything, at least it's that. I guess it's fine.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
but not the Queen Mary, honey.
No, no, that's good. I'm glad it stayed up. I was
Yeah, me
bummed when it was
too.
closed down. I went, that's got to open up again. I want to
I
go
know.
back. And then we're like, all right, 24. We're going back. Things are open. It's in full swing. And when UK came up, I was like, oh, next year.
Yeah,
It was too. We couldn't do it all.
but I'm just glad. Yeah, because that was hard. Well, we were. I was
Think of all
hard.
the frequent flyer miles you'll get, though. So that's a
Yeah.
win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe if we get enough people, maybe we'll have a group discount on the plane tickets.
It would be fun for me to do that because when I did it in the past, you and I went twice, and then before we met, when I lived out there, I went with one person that I was seeing at the time, and it was new people, except for maybe I think twice when the first group I was ever in, called Para, they went I think a couple times. They scheduled like an event there for just the team, like they rented it, whatever, and
Mhm.
I went with them. But never like now we have so many friends like that we like to work with, like all you guys.
Yeah.
Like I would love to have, and it's sad, I guess not sad, but difficult because we're all on the other side of the country, really, for the
Hmm.
most part. Some of our friends maybe
Yeah.
not, but for the
That's
most
I'm gonna
part,
try to give like a year and a half, just enough time for everybody, and
yeah.
then we'll see what happens. And we can make changing dates. Like we'll see what happens.
I think we need to do like the Mount Washington Hotel on this side of the country one year, and then the Queen Mary another year, and just go back and forth.
We
There you
would go
go.
out for like a week. The two times we did it, we fly out early on Friday because you're gaining the 3 hours
Hmm.
back when
Yep.
you get there. So we would go right to the Queen Mary and spend Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, and then maybe Sunday night. And then Monday through Friday, we would stay either with friends or somewhere else. And then one of those nights during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, usually we would go to David Oman's house. He'll make dinner for us, or he'll order dinner and we'll bring dessert, or he'll make dessert and we'll bring dinner. And he lets us run around the house till like 4 a.m. He's got cameras everywhere, just us and him. And he's been asking us to bring Staticon now because we didn't have it the last time we were there.
Okay.
And when he saw, because we were just in Vegas with the Rathmans, and he wanted us to come there because we were so close. But we flew out. We didn't have a rental car, and we had just enough time to kind of do what we needed to do, and not like it would have been
too much
driving back and forth. And then like
Right.
those three areas are triangulated between where Tony and Shree were in Arizona, you know, where
It's
he is
not.
in Beverly Hills in LA County, and then Las Vegas, to go driving back and forth for anybody. It was too much.
Yeah.
But we do want to go out there and do that also.
Yeah,
So that would usually be our midweek. We would do Queen Mary Friday through Sunday, David Oman's house middle of the week, and then the following weekend we would do something else. We did the Glen Tavern Inn the one year. The year before that, we did the Pasadena Playhouse.
Oh my God, the Pasadena Playhouse.
So you make a full week of it. You do weekend, 1 weeknight, weekend.
And I miss Dave, so we need to go.
Yeah, David Oman's a blast.
You're gonna tell him you're bringing all your friends, and he's just gonna.
I'm sorry, what happened, Chad?
I said you're gonna tell David you're gonna bring all your friends, and we're just.
I know.
He would be okay with it.
He probably would be.
He'd be okay with it.
Because he's so cool.
He's done public events for a long time.
Oh wow.
He's a little, he's essential. Like that's what I love about him. He's a little weird, but I love it. I think he's fine to me. I think he's absolutely fine.
He's a character, but
he's fun.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
He's always been very welcoming and kind to us.
Yeah,
and
always.
To me, before I knew her, I was going there.
And let me tell you, when I say weird, I mean lovingly, because I'm weird. So I think he's awesome.
We're all weird. Yep.
We all are. Yeah.
Really.
We wouldn't be here if we weren't. So.
Yeah. He's good people. It's fun, and that house. I've seen bonkers. The picture coming off the wall. Seen he has a video. If you go to his YouTube channel, there's some guy walking in the room in the basement that's like the exposed dirt, and you see the hill going up a little bit. And this guy was leaving, and there's this block of wood next to this little fridge thing that's on the shelf there, and it just starts to spin. It doesn't just fall off like it teetered. It like went into a spin, like it was trying to build up speed and hit him.
It was weird.
And it landed behind him.
And if you see that when there's no air, there's nothing, and it's just it's a piece of wood. It's just crazy. And the piano playing, and the cat ball.
So he attributes the cat ball sensation in the paranormal to us being at his house.
Yeah.
Let me be abundantly clear. We make no such claim. No. But it was before people were using them widespread like now.
Yeah.
This is like 2017.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yeah, it was the first time.
And he had them because he had cats. And when people investigate, he's got all his cats and the dog in the bedroom locked up. They're not walking around the house. And you can dismiss noises that might be from them. But for the most part, you don't ever hear them.
Yeah.
So he's got the cat balls, and he had them in the basement in the bottom level. And she'd kicked it with her foot, walking back from placing like a REM pod or something. So
because it was dark.
It was dark.
So I kind of grazed it.
Yeah. So we watched the footage. We dismissed the first time it blinked. Then it went off for a little bit. Then we started asking whoever's there to light them up, and they were doing it on command a couple times, lighting them up and letting it blink. Then we thanked them for doing it. We said, you don't have to do that. We really appreciate you doing it. And there's a little toy keyboard on the other side of the room at the bar, and it played a little jingle. And we were like, whoa.
It was crazy. And then so we asked Dave, because we asked him if there's like a little reset on it, like if you hit it with it. And he goes, no, but we tested it out. And I did the same thing, and we just waited and nothing happened. So it was interesting that it was, so, and it got a lot of hits on YouTube. So he thinks
He thinks the cat balls got popular because of the video that we did at his house.
He's funny. He's so funny.
You're a trendsetter.
And when we got the Manson,
oh yeah, Charles Manson. We never asked, all the years I went there before she went there with me, I never asked about the Manson Tate stuff. I just, whatever I got, I let the house yield what it's going to yield.
So the second year when he was on,
the second year
that we went.
Yeah, I think it was 18.
Yeah, he was on his deathbed.
Manson was on his deathbed. Yeah.
And we were using, what were we, SB7 or
Probably.
SB11? Maybe an SB7.
I think so.
And he asks, go ahead, what did you ask?
I said, when Manson dies and goes to wherever he goes, is he forgiven?
And this voice comes on, and it went, we want him. And we were like,
No further questions.
yep. It was crazy.
You may step down, whoever you are.
It was creepy and crazy and exciting at the same time, really. Because then a couple of days later he died, and I was like, bye. I don't know what's going to happen to you, but they want you.
Yeah.
They're expecting you.
So
You have a reservation.
he wants us to bring Satacom there badly now. And man, if we could have pulled it off when we were just in Vegas, I would have done it. If we end up going back to Las Vegas anytime soon, if there's anybody to coordinate that house is bonkers. Wow. It really is. That house is insane. And Dr. Barry Taft, who's a parapsychologist, he had done readings, like I forget what it was, like 5,000 milligauss positive at the front door, and by the spiral staircase it was negative 5,000. It was like, I think the USGS has it as a magnetic anomaly. Like it's just, you feel like the dizzying kind of off balance on the bottom, really on the bottom floor. It's nuts.
It really is nuts. That's why I love it.
So we want to go back.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd love to go back with what we're doing now.
It's a fun house. It is. Because that's another thing. I never felt anything like you. People think that it's because of the land or whatever, but I never really felt anything negative. Right. The only thing that we ever got that was negative was that, and that's because he asked the question. You see, so I never feel anything bad there.
So what we're trying to say is, when we have this cookie-infested field trip, we're going to go to David Omen's house and the Queen Mary.
That is a trip.
If we all were out there, I could totally set that up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a second suitcase for all the cookies. That's all. We got this covered. No big deal.
David would love it. He would love it.
He would love it.
Cool.
He loves when people come out here from these. I know Robert and Sandra Bando from Barefoot Paranormal went to his house.
Because the good thing about him is that he likes to interact with people. Just like he interacts with the spirits, because he does. He loves having people over and just,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at his house one time. I know we're talking about a different location now. And the lights in the hallway on the second level down, it was like a Led Zeppelin laser show. It was like bonkers. And he would ask him to stop, and it would stop. And then he would say to do it again, and it would all of a sudden, it was like the lights were blinking like in all different order. And I remember that was where I first heard. I was using the live listening with a Tascam recorder, but like a disembodied. He's got a memorabilia room for the first black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson. He's got tons of his stuff, like a menu from the restaurant he used to own, his top hat. Now it's actually spilled out into the hallway on the walls because he has so much stuff. And I remember being in the room and asking questions, and then the person I was with, she's like, maybe we should introduce ourselves. So we did. And then I heard him say, "Hi, I'm over here." And then I asked a couple questions about boxers, and I got answers. I remember it was, because I would hear it again. It was loud enough that with the live listening amplified, I could hear it through the Tascam recorded. It was bonkers.
So
that
David
house
is one of the most active for you, right?
It is the most active.
See, but that's why the Queen Mary is for me, for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's for the same reason. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, you make those decisions based on how much you've been there and how active it is.
What you experienced
over the collection of time that you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
I did both of those places a few times. He used to do the tours of the public ghost hunts, and he used to go, just follow around. I have my SB7, my little spirit box and speaker. You go follow around with the spirit box. And that was what I would do. But it was cool. I remember the one time there was a group with me. We were in the bottom third level, the low one where the bar is, in one of the bedrooms. And it was just going for 20 minutes of going, nothing's coming through. And I'm like, go follow around with the spirit box. It's not working out. And then I said, do we look stupid just talking to the world's worst radio, like just talking to static? And a voice goes, you think? And I was like, yes, make fun of me. It's okay.
That's what I say when they do things to me like that.
Wow.
But highly recommend, to get back to tonight's show, highly recommend the Queen Mary. You'll probably have a good experience in the paranormal stuff, collecting EVPs or something. Even if you don't, there's no way you visit that place if you even remotely like history and don't feel like, holy crap.
Yeah, you'll feel
I'm
something.
so glad I came here.
Even if it's just a history, you'll feel something.
That's what's great about so many of these places. And we've talked about it before, Jamie, that the paranormal is great, but so is the history. I mean, and the two joined together just make it even amazing.
And what I don't mean like just seeing it. It's just amazing. That feeling alone is great.
Yeah. Majestic piece of floating history. It really is.
So, well, we're lucky that it's still here.
Yes.
Of it, so
We gotta go.
I know.
All right. Well, we should probably wrap up. If you guys want to hang out for a few minutes in the green room, where Jamie and I will wrap up, and we'll catch up with you in a minute. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks so much for joining
Yes,
us.
thank you.
And to everybody watching, asking questions.
Yeah, bye guys.
Thank you also.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Hold on.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Oh,
Well, that was awesome. Thanks, guys.
yeah.
So some upcoming events. We're running out of time for the year. So as we're running into the end of November next week, I'm going to take on the Lake Michigan Triangle. After that, Chad's going to go to Arizona to the Birdcage Theater, and then I think this might be our last episode for the year. We'll take a little break there with the holidays. Maybe we haven't really decided yet. I'm going to tackle Urban Legends Part 2 international version. Did you get that graphic figured out yet, Chad?
Which one?
The one that's...
Oh yeah, that's easy. So, but we might have one right after that because that'll be the 17th. So we'll
okay.
just,
17th. I'm sorry. So man, how's it getting to the end of the year already? This is crazy.
Time flies.
That means I got to start Christmas shopping sooner than later.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So anyway, that's what's coming up there. We both did it again.
I did. I'm sorry. We have one more investigation yet this year. December 7th is coming up at Booby's Brewery. We have tickets available still. You can find them at boobiesbrewery.com. It's BUBES, not the other way. You will get something uniquely different. Not safe for work stuff. So, but Mountjoy, PA is a happening place. There's accommodations available on site. So lots of cool reasons to come.
It's
You
better
get to hang out with us.
It's better if you spend the night, right?
Mountjoy's more fun when you stay over. That's right. And we will have dates for next year. We're just still working it out with the brewery as far as lining the schedule. If anybody knows us, it was probably mid-December last year till we figured it out. So for the following year, and then we'll drop them as soon as we have them. Though we'll find them here first. And then, of course, the usual socials of ways to find us. You're watching us live tonight. This, if you haven't guessed, this is definitely live. We're here on Facebook and YouTube on Tuesdays at 9. All the streaming services tomorrow, sometime
around noon,
noonish Eastern time, maybe. But you also have a presence on TikTok, Instagram, and so forth. All those usual socials as well. If you like anything you've seen, feel free to join up in our stuff here and give us a like, give us a follow. If you're catching us on the streaming services, feel free to give us some stars. We'd love to have 5. Of course, we hope we earned them, but however many you feel. And leave us a review or leave us some comments. Give us an idea of what we're up to, how we're doing for you. If there's any topics you'd like to hear or see us do, you have your own stories to share. We're always willing and able to fit things into whatever our schedule looks like. You can find us, email us, at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com directly. Leave comments on any of the episodes. We'll certainly see those as well. Lots of ways to touch base with either Chad or I. Mm-hmm. And we are responsive, so we'll get right back to you. So, and I think that covers everything, right, Chad? You got anything extra there?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
So,
all right. As Matthew McConaughey always says, all right, all right, all right.
So okay. Sorry, I'm tired tonight.
Well, you've had a day. I know that, and I know where you've been today, so I certainly understand. With all things being equal, you're good. Complete sentences are not required.
So, all right. Well, I appreciate Jamie again. Thank you for your help today. Everything. Ron and Lourdes, thank you, and I want to thank all the listeners and people who are watching with us. It was an interesting episode tonight in lots of ways because it just did not go off. The beginning did not go the way we expected it to. So, but it's always interesting to go live. So
yeah, it is. And Ron and Lourdes, rock stars as always. And that was almost a last minute addition to get some valuable input. And like everything else, the passion they have for the field shines every time we connect, and such wonderful people. Thank
So,
you, both of them. Thanks for joining us.
thank you.
We'll look for ways to engage more in the future.
Yep. And on that note, good night, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great week.